I'm out here taking a look at the trees. I got the herbicide guy that's going to be here in about 8 days. So I got to make sure that the whole thing about this herbicide is that for this herbicide to work, it was saying that on the label it says that the trees need to have a full set of leaves. And the leaves need to the metabolic activity of the plant needs to be good for the herbicide to work properly. So I'm out here taking a look at the trees, and everything does look to be greening up a bit. And so if you take a look, I would say this tree right here is a very good representative example, a representative sample of what's going on the field out here. These trees right now, a lot of them look like this. And this is this tree right here. So the thing about leaves and the thing about plant material is that, like when you take a look at a plant, any portion of the plant that is green because the plants contain a cell called chloroplast. And that green color, that chloroplast that's turning the plant green, when the sunlight goes through the plant material, it will interact with that green cell. It will interact with that chloroplast. And that chloroplast will photosynthesize and create sugar for the plant. And so that's effectively the metabolic pathway for the plant. That's effectively how the plant creates energy. That's how the plant has energy to do whatever it needs to do. And so when you have a leaf like this, a majority of leaves, a lot of plant material, when you're talking about leaves on a plant, the photosynthetic machinery inside of the leaf, the chloroplasts and et cetera, the photosynthetic machinery has a limited lifespan. And usually that lifespan is about 30 days. And so once the plant has set a new leaf, that leaf will effectively continue to produce a lot of sugar for about 30 days. And then after that, the photosynthetic machinery in the plant will begin to degrade, and eventually the leaf will die. The leaf will eventually the plant will the leaf will die eventually. And so when I take a look at a plant like this, I would say that this leaf is probably this leaf is probably right at about 2 or 3 weeks old. And so if I herbicide this plant in the next 8 days, the herbicide should work properly. All right, this leaf right here is probably about 3 weeks old. You can see it's fully developed, and it's fully developed, and so I would say that the leaf is probably about 3 weeks old. And that's a very good representative sample of what I got going on out here in terms of the trees. And the big idea with the herbicide right now is that I'm probably gonna have to herbicide all of this twice. I will probably have to herbicide all of this twice. I'll herbicide it one time next week, and then I'll have to herbicide it again in the spring next year. And that should give me about a 96% kill on these trees. 80 to 95% of these trees should die. And if the trees die, then it'll be easier to get them. It'll be easier to get rid of them, just because I don't have to worry about digging up the root or anything. And so and all of this small stuff out here too. You can take a look at all this small stuff out here, and here's a. These trees right here, this is actually a very good example of what a leaf looks like when it's about a week old. Because, I actually came through here with a bulldozer, right? You can actually see I bulldozed the path through here, and I chopped, I effectively just, smashed all these trees, and it ripped all the leaves off of them. And so this tree has began to set new leaves, right? And so this tree right here, it'll regrow. And but this is I bulldozed the land about a week ago, and I got some rain. I got some rain a couple days ago, and I got some rain yesterday. And so this plant has started to regrow, and this is effectively what a leaf looks like when it's about a week old. So here in about 2 more weeks, the tree should look like that. And here's a bigger example of what a tree that's setting new leaves looks like, right? This is a big tree that got knocked over by the bulldozer. Effectively ripped all the leaves off of it, and you can see it's putting on new leaves, right? You can see where it's putting on new leaves, and this stuff is probably about a week old. You know, here in about another week, these and here you can actually see a lot of it happening right here. The plant is really starting to push out new leaves right there. And here in about a week, those leaves will be more or less at maximum photosynthetic activity. They'll be at maximum metabolic activity. And when the plants are at maximum metabolic activity, that's the most reasonable time to use a systemic herbicide. And so I'm taking a look at everything, and I may even get another rain between now and the next. I got about a 25% chance of it raining every day next week. That's effectively just the Weather Channel saying that there's probably going to be 1 day of rain next week. And if I get one more day of rain between now and the 10th, then the trees will definitely have full-on set some leaves, and you can tell, right? You can take a look at it. When you take a look at it, got a lot of trees out here with a lot of leaves on them. And I got a lot of these little broadleaf weeds out here too. And the broadleaf weeds, I'm not too concerned about them. Realistically here in the spring, the broadleaf weeds, they'll all die when it gets cold. They'll all die anyway. And realistically, I'm really looking to kill the broadleaf weeds when they're like this. And actually this is a very good time to look at it. You see, I got a lot of little stuff coming up. Well, this one not little. I was like, wait a second, it's got a seed head on it, but it's a big old plant. It just got ran over by the bulldozer. You'll see the little stuff. You'll know because they'll have a seed leaf on it, like this right here. This is a little plant right here. It's got the little seed leaves on it right here on the side. Right, that's called I think it's called the cotyledon. But that's when you want an herbicide right here. When they're about this big. When the weeds are about this big. When they're maybe a little bit bigger than this. Within a week they'll be a little bit bigger, and that's effectively when you want an herbicide. And that's when but if you also herbicide when the weeds are that small, and if the grass is that small, the herbicide may damage the grass as well. So yep, there is that to consider too. It's really a good time to herbicide when the weeds are small. But read the label of the herbicide, and it will tell you your grass needs to be XYZ inches tall or whatever it may be. Spray the weeds when the grass is 3 to 4 inches tall. And even if the weeds are 3-4 inches tall, the herbicide will still kill it. But with everything, and you can see here's another tree really starting to set on some new leaves. Right, you can tell the new leaves are kind of like this bright green. But here within about 10 days, those bright green leaves will have effectively fully set, and the plant will just be pulling sugar from those leaves. And so the metabolic activity of the plant will be very good. And there's a lot of trees out here too. You can take a look at but it's just another a bunch of they're effectively all about the same, right? That's why I was saying by representative sample, that tree is a good example of what all the trees look like more or less right now. And I got a bunch of weeds out here, but these weeds and stuff, I'll come through here and I'll herbicide it one more time in the spring. I'll probably have to herbicide this property twice. And when I do that, when I herbicide the property 2 times, it will effectively kill, I would anticipate that I get about 80 to 95% death in the trees. And that'll put me in a good spot. And then I can just, I may even be able to push these trees out of the way with a skid steer. Once the trees are dead, I may just be able to push them out of the way with a skid steer. I'll have to see. And once I herbicide this property, I would reasonably anticipate that, my total farmable acreage will probably be close to about, the back 50-75 acres is in a very rough condition. But then I'm also looking for more land. Okay, I'm also looking for more land, but I'll effectively be able to farm this land probably by maybe the early summer next year. I will be able to farm this land by the early summer of next year. And right now I still have a lot of land. You know, I got a lot of land and I can put more cattle out on it. And I'm not I'm not in any short supply of land right now, but I am still looking for more, because you know, I am looking to expand my business as you know, as reasonably as possible. You know, and so yep, I got all these trees out here. I got all these little broadleaf weeds out here. But under the broadleaf weeds, if you take a look under the broadleaf weeds, you can see that there is grass on this field, right? Under the broadleaf weeds, there is grass on the field, and so that's very good. You know, I just got to get rid of the weeds, and once the weeds are gone, I can put the cattle out here, and I'm gonna push these trees out the way. But yeah, the trees look like the trees look like they're growing in, so that's very good. Because from my understanding, I was reading on the label of the herbicide, if the tree does not have a full set of leaves, the herbicide will not work properly. And so, you know, I would reasonably anticipate that I have all this done by about summer of next year. I'll have my cattle out here. Up until then, I have plenty of land that I can put my cattle out on. And you know, I got a lot of land right now that I can work with, and so I'm not in any short supply of land. You know, I do have plenty of land, and you know, with all this getting done, you know, I'm gonna do very well for myself, and that's the whole big idea right now. When I take a look at it, the big idea is, what should I do with the money, right? That's one of the things that I have to do. In terms of one of the things that I have to do, that's just part of a big part of what I do, is what do I do with the money, right? And I've always said that sitting on money is not going to do anything. Okay, you know, you should not be in a situation where you have no money. That's not an ideal situation. That's not good. All right, you know, but money at the end of the day does not do anything. Okay, technically money is an infinite supply. All right, it's a piece of paper. Okay, you know, if you have a $50 trillion idea, you just go to the bank. Or if you have a $50 trillion plan, if you have a realistic way of making $50 trillion, and you go to the bank and you tell them about it, they'll just print out the $50 trillion for you. I mean, money's just a piece of paper, right? It's just a piece of paper, you know. And I've always said that there's no reason to sell your soul to the devil for money. It's not going to do anything. And why would you do that, right? At the end of the day, you know, money, it's negligible. Okay, it's all negligible. You know, money is borderline whatever. Okay, you can always make more money. All right, you can always make more money. Money is just kind of a whatever. Okay, you know, it's more important that you become a not idiot than just have a large amount of money. Because even if you do manage to make a large amount of money, if you're still an idiot, if you manage to make a large amount of money as an idiot, you'll just end up losing everything, right? That's the big idea. You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, or you'll go and take the money and you'll do something, you know, not good with it. You know, the money doesn't do anything. The whole thing about money is that if you're a decent person with money, you're just a decent person with money. But if you're a bad person and you have money, then you're just a bad person with money. I mean, it's not like you know, the money doesn't do anything. That's the big idea, right? Money doesn't do anything, and at the end of the day, you can always make more money. All right, don't hang around poor people. Don't ask poor people about what you should do with money. All right, don't ask poor people. There is no benefit to being poor. Okay, you know, you should not be in a situation where you're poor. It's not going to do anything. If you legitimately have convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor, that's not good. Okay, you should not be convincing yourself to be poor. A lot of times when you listen to the things, like if you actually go into detail about the ideas of poor people, a lot of times these ideas are very, 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 like, not good, borderline malicious, sometimes even malicious, right? I mean, you've convinced yourself that it's okay to steal, right? That's a good sign that you're poor. You've convinced yourself that, whatever, right? I mean, you know, you've convinced yourself that it's okay to steal, or you've convinced yourself that you're some incredible saint, or, you know, all sorts of problems, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you've convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor. It doesn't matter what your reasoning is. A lot of times being poor, very often when you have a poor person, the reason that you're poor is because you're an idiot. All right, it's not because you're some incredible well-to-do person, some remarkable saint. All right, and very often, if you've become poor, it's probably already too late. The chance of you getting saved from being a poor person is almost 0%. All right, and if anything, you'll probably end up taking other people down with you. All right. I've related the idea of being poor to, flailing in the ocean. You've effectively convinced yourself that for some reason you have convinced yourself that there is a massive island of gold somewhere, and you've gone swimming off into the ocean by yourself, and you've gone all the way out there until the point that you don't know where land is anymore, and you're freaking out. So now you're flailing. Right, and at the end of the day, even if it swam all the way out there and found you, I mean, the chance of anybody dragging you back is effectively 0%. And I don't even bother with it. Okay. All right, and chances are you're just a lot of people, when you've become poor, you're just flailing out in the middle of nowhere for no reason. You're just flailing. All right, you're flailing. You have these ridiculous ideas. You're going to get on the next rocket ship to the moon. Your life is a magical journey. Money doesn't do it. You're sitting there convincing yourself that you don't have money problems, and you would sell your soul to the devil for 50 grand and all sorts of problems. Okay, it's a multi-dimensional problem. It's not something that's just a singular problem. I can almost guarantee it. If you're poor, it's effectively a done deal, and you're going to be poor for all eternity. There's nothing that can be done about it. You don't want to end up in a situation where you've convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor. That's the worst thing that you can do, okay? And, and if you hang around other poor people, it's going to make your situation worse and all sorts of problems, okay? You don't want to be in a situation where you've convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor. Definitely not. All right, and and a lot of times when you take a look at what poor people think about, if you actually take a hard look, just take a step back and take a look at what poor people think about, a lot of times it's horrible stuff. And the whole thing, and it's like, oh well, I mean, you've convinced yourself that it's okay to steal, right? That's a good sign that you're poor. And the whole thing, and a lot of times if you're legitimately poor, there's a very honest possibility that you're actually doing so horribly that you could easily improve your life. That's the thing about being poor. You are legitimately in a situation where you're more or less probably doing so horribly that you could easily improve your life. And a lot of people don't understand this, right? You could easily improve your life. I mean, it's not going to be some unheard of thing, all right? But the big problem is once you've become poor, you act like a poor person. That's the problem. And and if you act like a poor person, I mean, then you'll get poor results, all right? And why would I care, right? Why would I care? At the end of the day, I actually made it, and I do very well for myself. I'm not some malicious person. I don't want to see people poor. I'm not going to go out of my way to make people poor. At the end of the day, the reason that I show you what I do is to show you what's possible. I am in the very, 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 very top end of the U.S. economy and effectively the world economy. The U.S. economy is the world economy, more or less. And so, I effectively made it to the very top percentiles of the entire shebang, the whole shebang. I made it to the very top, not to the very, very top, but near the, I made it to, I'm way up there somewhere, right? I do very well for myself. And, I'm not, I don't want to see people poor. I'm not going to go out of my way to, maliciously turn people poor. At the end of the day, when I do this stuff, I'm here, I effectively, I'm here to show you what's possible, okay? I'm here to show you what's possible. I managed to do it. And, and I can show you, and I'm here to show you that it's possible. And me, I don't get my hopes up for anybody, okay? Fake it till you make it is a joke. Either you make it or you don't, and most of you probably not even going to get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. I don't care if you drop dead. All right, it doesn't matter. It's not, you're not you're not going to make it to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. All right. And in all honesty, if you make it to the 10% mark, you should understand that when you make it to the 10% mark, everything becomes negligible, okay? You can practice for free. You don't have to worry about the cost of anything anymore, because at the end of the day, everything should be paying for itself. All the money that you're putting into it should at least be coming back. At least you should be making that much back. And as long as you can do that, you can practice for free. All right. But you can take a look at the leaves on these trees. I got a lot of leaves on these trees. But you definitely do not want to be in a situation where you have convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor, okay? Nobody cares. You know, if you're poor, you're going to die poor. And, you know, you definitely don't want to be in a situation where you've convinced yourself that it's a good idea to be poor. It doesn't matter what your reason is, right? I've said that there is no good reason. There is no good reason, okay? In terms of legitimately like being poor, if you have convinced yourself to be poor, there is no reason for you to have convinced yourself to be poor. There's no good reason for it. None. Zero, okay? It doesn't matter what, oh my God, you don't understand. And you're absolutely correct. I don't understand what it's like to be poor, and I don't even want to know what it's like. Not even the slightest bit. I don't want to know what it's like, okay? I can tell you what it's like to be wealthy. I can tell you what it's like to be rich. Imagine living in a world where everything costs you nothing. The things that I put money in make me a positive return. Anything, you know, when I buy something, if I go out and I buy something and it's an investment, I don't even consider it as an expense. I consider it as a store of wealth. All right? You know, everything effectively costs me. Now, I can tell you what it's like to be rich. I can tell you what it's like to be wealthy. I can show you what it's like. All right, you know, I make deals, right? And, you know, when I make deals, you know, this is, you know, and this is how I do it, and, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. I can show you what it's like to be rich. I can show you what it's like to be wealthy. I don't want to know what it's like to be poor. I don't. All right, keep it to yourself. All right, if you're gonna be poor and you're gonna die poor and you're gonna be poor for all eternity, and you've chosen to be poor, then have fun with that. I want nothing to do with it. All right. Die poor. All right, I will watch you die poor. I want nothing to do with it, okay? I can show you what it's like to be rich. I can show you what it's like to be wealthy. Imagine living in a world where everything costs you nothing. All right, me, when I put money into things, the things that I put money into don't cost me anything. All right, they're equitable. They're worth money. I take my money and I grow my money. I use my money to make more money, right? You know, I can show you what it's like to be rich. I can show you what it's like to be wealthy. I do very well for myself, okay? And this is going to be the project that I'm working on over the next week. Over the next 2 weeks, this will be the project that I'm working on. I'm going to spray these trees down. And here within maybe 8 months, I will, within 6-7 months, I will spray the trees down again. And once I've sprayed the trees down twice, these trees and all of these annual weeds, these broadleaf weeds on the ground, they'll all effectively, you know, 80 to 95% of them should be dead by the time I have herbicided this field twice. All right.